All right, next one. Different season, different strategies and tactics.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tell
so
me more.
again, to my, and I'm kind of realizing as I go through my lessons here is like the environments that have occurred this year have been where I've learned a lot of my different lessons from. So for example, if you were to go back let's go back 3 years when recruiting was way easier. Put a job ad up in the morning, by the end of the day, you could literally have someone start work. That's what it was like in the industry we are in. Like a lot of video editors were out there, for an example, where during, let's say, the last 12 months recruiting has been a much more challenging process, whether it's via supply and demand, people getting out of the industry, whatever it is what it is. When I look at this now and going, this year provided a very different experience from, let's just say, previously we had some boom years, and now we've had what is known as a bust year. So that's just in an economic cycle type of way of doing it. My thing I look at, though, is that just because it's, let's say, a bust year or a recessionary year, it doesn't have to be one for you. It really doesn't, but you do have to change the strategies and tactics you use. And I love this analogy to think of it. Let's pretend summer is the boom years and winter is the bust years. So we have these massive economic wins at a global scale in summer, and then we have these economic downturns in the winter. Now, if I said to you, Grant, hey, look, it's summer, and it is summer or a summerish day outside right now, I go, well, if you knew it was going to be 40 degrees outside and you had to be out in the weather, like what would you do? You'd take a hat, some sunscreen, like you would start applying strategies and tactics to do well in that environment. Now, if it's conversely winter and it's pouring with rain and you know you've got to be outside, would you maybe wear warm clothing? Maybe bring a raincoat or an umbrella? So different season, different strategies would allow you to do better there. And like this principle actually applies to business. So if you're an accountant, in summer, you might offer things like, let me minimize your tax through all the gains you're making, right? It's a really good strategy. But then in winter, you might actually offer, let me do a cost-cutting review. I'm going to go through and show you how to trim expenses. You may be very close to delivering that same service, but in different seasons, they can do well depending. And I really like to think this year I've developed a set of skills when things aren't the boom cycles we've been so accustomed to in the last years. Where things are different, I've totally got a new set of skills that can really apply here.
This is, I've been through this, and I'm going to apply one more layer to it, which is just, it might just not be obvious for anyone. I think of this as internal and external as well, right? So the different seasons from a macro view, like yourself, which is like, well, is it a boom or a bust? Well, if it's a bust, then maybe how can I help people, in your accounting example, save money? Whereas like in a boom, it's like, well, how can I help you acquire more profit or like collect more profits? But I also think about it internally. So like, what do you do inside your business or even for yourself personally? Like if I am a new father, for example, that is a different season to when I wasn't a father. And so what strategies and tactics do I deploy to run my business when I have that, right? Because I can't do an 80-hour week in that scenario. And it's not that it's better or worse, it's just a different season, right? Which means I just need different strategies and tactics. Same with if, I don't know, the headwind and tailwind of recruitment. As like, what is the season that I'm about to go to internal to my business? Like this concept is so applicable to everything. And I think that the more people that realize that, and I think your equation is perfect, like the different season equals different strategies and tactic. Like that's it. Like that is a blanket across absolutely everything, not just like the external forces. It's the internal forces. It's yourself personally. It's your family. It's the workers. It's like everything has its own season, and they will all not be tailwinds at one time, and they will all not be headwinds at one time. They will all change, right? This is a big one. When did you realize that was like a lesson? Is that because there were situations in the past that you hadn't changed based on the season that you weren't able to see that there was a season that you needed to change to? Or was this more something where you're It's more like a realization that, hey, like I've played this very well. Why did I play this very well? I'm just aware of things change all the time, and I'm happy to change with it.
Yeah, so in Q3 this year, when interest rates started rising, it became very apparent to me that the likelihood of a recession was massively increased. Like in doing this show, we do a lot of economic research. And when we were going through it, I'm like, it seems very likely that if the intent of interest rates is to destroy demand. So by very nature, when they put interest rates up, they're trying to slow down the economy. The chances of a recession increase substantially. Like that's what they're trying to do. So when I had come to the conclusion that on the, I think it was like the third or fourth rate rise they did, is that this likelihood is becoming more and more likely. Noting I don't know when it's going to happen, I started to go through a bit of a fear cycle myself. And I'll be transparent here. I was like, well, if rates keep going up, does this mean I need to start selling property?
Yep.
Does this mean I need to bunker down and be ready to survive a harsh winter? Like, what does it actually mean to be going through one of these in the position I'm in today, which has been very different than previous recessions? So I go, is there something where the bunkering it down approach is there? And I just didn't sit with me. I massively dislike the idea that something would happen and the response is to wait it out. I just don't feel like sitting on the sidelines and pretending like, oh, we'll just wait for better days and then we'll do something again is the right attitude.
Hide under
and
the
I was
bridge.
like, yeah. And one of the investors I admire the most, which is Howard Marks, is the guy that invested like billions at the bottom of the GFC. Right. So when everyone was panic selling, he was purchasing, I think it was like, I can't remember, distressed debt or something like that. Anyway, don't quote me on the exacts of his philosophy, but it's like why he actually did so well is he was able to develop a strategy that worked really well in a recession. And then that's where he dominates. So for Howard, he's like, I'm sitting there being fearful of recessions. He's almost like bored waiting for the next one. It's like, boom times are good again. This is terrible. And it really changed the mentality, right? It changed the mentality here. And like I took that investing principle and then wanted to bring it across to business and go, do you know what? There are businesses that do extremely well in challenging times. Like, and I'll use this as a what I'll call obvious but not necessarily nice example. If businesses are going bankrupt, if you're in the business of bankruptcies, this is your season.
Winning. Yep.
Exactly. So I then asked myself a very, what I would like to think, empowering question, Grant, of the idea of going, well, what if I don't have to be in the camp of, I can win in the boom and not in the bust, or I can win when times are good, but I can't win when times are challenging. What if my skills and ability was going, well, just treat it like the weather? And that's why I love that example of going, well, if you know it's raining outside, what's the strategy that would enable you to win in the rain? What's the tactics that work when it's in the rain? And then conversely, where do I lean from here? The conclusion I came to and the belief I want to have, and this is opinion, you don't have to take on this opinion and nor does anyone else, is I live in a world where it doesn't matter if it's sunny or raining, I'm going to develop the skills, attitudes, behaviors, all of it, so I get to win and play in both.
Hey, fellow business owner, if this topic and value-packed short video has resonated with you at all, and you want to dive deeper into creating wealth inside and outside your business, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now.